The first sound wasn't gunfire. It was breathing sharp, uneven, desperate over a radio buried in static. Echo 7, contact northeast. 2 down, holding, inside the corridor. Then silence. Every man in the command tent froze. The map on the wall flickered under red emergency lights, sand dust trembling with each rotor thump outside. Colonel Grant Mercer leaned over the comms table, voice low but cutting through the tension like a blade. "Run it again." The operator replayed the transmission. The words ended the same way, static. Then, nothing. The room felt heavier. Everyone in Falcon Ridge knew that coordinate, Narak Rift. The locals called it the Silent Corridor, a stretch of canyon that erased aircraft from radar, swallowed drones, and shredded 2 rescue teams in the last year alone. Mercer's jaw flexed. Anyone ever flown it and lived? The question didn't need an answer. The silence said enough. In the corner, a figure barely moved. Major Riley Cross sat alone, flight suit half unzipped, eyes fixed on the map. Her call sign still hung above her last sortie report, Valkyrie 3, grounded pending review. She'd been the only pilot to survive that canyon. Barely. The air inside the tent was thick with jet fuel, sweat, and disbelief. Outside, a Blackhawk lifted off, its blades slicing the dawn haze. No one spoke until a young intel officer finally did. "Colonel, Echo 7's beacon just pinged again. They're still alive." Mercer turned, eyes narrowing. "No one goes in there." Cross looked up. For a moment. The chaos, the noise, all of it faded. The canyon wasn't just coordinates to her, it was a scar, the kind that never closed. Her voice came calm, steady, almost detached. "How long until their signal dies?" "Minutes," the operator whispered. Cross stood slowly. Her chair scraped concrete, a small, hard sound that cut through every conversation in the tent. Heads turned. Mercer's eyes met hers, a silent standoff between command and memory. "Major," he said. "Warning clear." She didn't answer, just stared at the blinking red dot on the wall map, the place where help had stopped going. Mercer exhaled. "Don't even think about it." Cross's reply was quiet, but it carried through the room like a gunshot. "I already am." Dawn hadn't broken over Camp Iron Mesa, but heat was already rising off the tarmac in wavering sheets. A-10C Valkyrie 3 sat at the far edge, gray skin dust-chalked, nose art rubbed thin by time and sand. Major Riley Cross stood beside the ladder, helmet in one hand, coffee cooling in the other. Tower chatter crackled in her earpiece, more committees, more cautions, more orders to stand down. She didn't listen. Only one loop played in her head. Echo 7, 2 down, holding inside the corridor. A crew chief strode past, eyes forward, hands black with grease, as he passed. He let 2 words slip. Too quiet for anyone but her. Still alive. That was all she needed. The coffee hit the concrete. Cross mounted the ladder and dropped into the cockpit. The seat took her like an old friend. Switches snapped beneath her fingertips, muscle memory locking in. HUD green. RWR ticking awake. TGP page warming. CDU alive. Oxygen on. Canopy down. She smelled dust and aluminum, and felt the hog's weight come up through the frame. The radio cut sharp. "Official Valkyrie 3. You are not cleared for takeoff. Identify and power down." Her thumb hovered over the mic. Negative. Tower. Not waiting for clearance. "Cross, you're grounded. Do not roll." She pushed the throttles past the gate. Twin TF-34s wound up with a low animal growl that turned the air to muscle. Valkyrie 3 lurched and settled, nose dipping. dust corkscrewing off the wings. On the line. Yellow vests turned, in the glass. Controllers stood up from their chairs. Control room chaos. Who's moving that? Hog trace matches. Cross, it's Valkyrie 3. At Falcon Ridge. Colonel Mercer watched a single return drift, then fall off the scope entirely. He didn't bother to curse. She's gone nap of the earth, he said. Below our picture. On the runway. Tires screamed. Flaps drooped. Heat haze rippled behind the exhausts as the Warthog ran out the line and broke free heavy. Certain. Reborn. Cross felt the lift through her ribs, the first clean breath she'd taken since the call. She checked the panel, master arm safe, gun safe, CMDS, STBY, not time yet. Not until the canyon opened its teeth. Falcon Ridge, this is Valkyrie 3, she said, voice level. Tell Echo 7 to hold. I'm coming. Her tone was calm. Her eyes were not. Below, Mercer gave the only order that made sense now. Keep her frequency open. If she calls, you answer. Valkyrie 3 banked east, skimming the low sun. Shadows sliding off her wings. Beyond the ridgeline. A faint orange flare pulsed once in the haze, a stubborn heartbeat inside the rift. Cross caught it and allowed herself the smallest smile. She tipped the nose and slipped behind the first ridge, and for a moment, the world forgot she was there. The first flash wasn't light, it was sound. A low, rolling thunder that didn't belong to any storm. Valkyrie 3 skimmed the ridgeline, her twin TF-34 engines screaming through the morning haze. Ahead, the Narak Rift opened like a wound black stone walls tightening into the canyon pilots called the Silent Corridor. Major Riley Cross steadied her hands on the stick. Sweat traced the inside of her gloves. Her HUD glitched with static. RWR chimed uselessly. TGP flickered between ghosts. No GPS, no radar, only instinct. Inside the rift. Sound died fast. Each engine pulse echoed wrong, warped, swallowed. The kind of silence that eats everything, even fear. Her radio crackled once. Valkyrie 3, this is Falcon Ridge. Respond. Static swallowed the voice. Cross toggled a switch. Main off. Guard on. Only emergency traffic now. The altimeter wound down 200 feet AGL. 170. 150. The hog rode the updrafts like an animal too heavy to fly, but too stubborn to fall. Shadows from her wings scraped the rock face. Every muscle remembered this airspace where thermals twisted into knives and one wrong crosswind could shear a pilot's name into stone. Then movement. A flicker on TGP. Heat blooms 5 signatures tucked along the ridge. Missile tubes. Cross's voice dropped low. Let's see if you're awake. She rolled left, hugging the wall. CMDS punched flares strobed behind like burning stars. The first missile cut past, close enough to rattle the canopy. She dove to 120 feet. Canyon floor, a blur of ochre dust. Master arm, gun ready. She pulled the trigger. The GU-8A spoke 30mm thunder-carving daylight from stone. Rock vaporized. The ridge vanished in dust and flame. Bodies scattered. Far below. Echo 7 froze mid-fight, eyes lifting toward the sound. She's back. Someone breathed half disbelief, half prayer. Cross didn't hear them, but she felt it, that deep rhythm of steel and will. It wasn't vengeance, it was purpose. Hydraulic light blinked amber. Flares down to 3. Fuel 54%. She ignored them all. Ahead, the canyon tightened a dead man's curve. Cross pulled, body pressed under 6 Gs, breath locking in her chest. The hog shuddered but held. Smoke trails spun behind her. Silence rushed back in. Then, through the static on guard Echo 7 to any call sign, taking heavy fire, were boxed in. Cross leaned forward. The valley throat flickered with mortar flashes. The smell of cordite and sand filled her memory before it reached her cockpit. She keyed the mic, voice steady, almost tender. "Hold the line. Boys, the storm's coming." Throttle full. Engines roared. Canyon walls trembled under the sound. Below, the operator of Echo 7 looked up. Blood and dust streaking his face, and the sky began to shake. Then the canyon answered. The missile came without warning, a streak of white heat slicing across the canyon sky. Major Riley Cross didn't hesitate. Years of instinct took over faster than fear ever could. Valkyrie 3 rolled hard into the canyon's shadow, metal groaning, G-forces crushing her spine. The missile tracked her exhaust like a predator that never missed. The cockpit screamed, "Lock, lock, lock!" Cross punched flares. A dozen burning suns tearing the air apart. One missile veered and exploded mid-air. The second twisted back toward her. Relentless. "Not today," she hissed, pushing the throttle forward. The Warthog climbed, scraping the canyon rim by inches. Its engines roared like a wounded animal refusing to die. Cross banked. Dove again. Skimming rock at 120 feet, the canyon turning into a blur of dust and light. Below, Echo 7 was still fighting. A medic's hands were slick with blood. Someone shouted, "Something's coming." They looked up just as Valkyrie 3 tore overhead, a shadow of steel and thunder. Cross squeezed the trigger. The GAU-8A answered 30mm shells hammering the valley, precision bursts ripping through enemy lines. Fire rolled along the ridge, smoke blooming like storm clouds. In Falcon Ridge Command, alarms wailed. "She's off comms, she's engaging on her own. Mercer didn't blink. Then let her work." Back in the rift, Valkyrie 3 bucked violently. Chuaidi press low, fuel 37%, left stab warning. She ignored every red light. "Come on, girl," she whispered. "Just one more run." Rotor wash thundered over the radio. 2 CH-47F Chinooks were descending the cavalry, finally here. Her relief lasted seconds. Thermal sensors flared on her HUD, 3 heat signatures on the southern ridge. Missile crews, waiting. No hesitation. Falcon Ridge. This is Valkyrie 3 engaging South Ridge. She dove, the missile alarm shrieking again, but this time, the launch flash wasn't for her. It was locked on the lead Chinook. Cross didn't think. She moved. "Full burn!" The A-10 screamed through the canyon, diving straight into the missile's path. "Break off! Valkyrie, that's an order." She didn't answer. The missile found her heat signature, not the helicopter's. A flash impact behind the cockpit. The world went white. Shrapnel tore through the fuselage. Warning lights bled red across her HUD. Left stabilizer gone. Engine 2 coughing fire. But the hog was still in the air. Smoke streamed from her tail as she pulled level. Below, the Chinooks reached the valley floor. Soldiers boarding under a hail of dust and grit. Cross keyed the mic, voice steady through static. "Echo 7, this is Valkyrie 3. You're clear to move. I'll keep the sky clean." The Chinook pilot looked up, saw her limping above them. One wing scorched black, still circling like a guardian, refusing to fall. Then her signal faded. Only the echo of engines remained fading into the rift, like a vow kept in smoke and steel. The hangar was silent when she returned. Valkyrie 3 hit the runway, hard tires screaming, nose strut collapsing under the impact. Sparks cascaded down the tarmac like a trail of fire. The aircraft groaned, one wing dragging, until it finally lurched to a stop in a cloud of dust and smoke. Major Riley Cross flipped the master switch. The engines coughed once, then died. The silence that followed felt like judgment. She climbed out without waiting for the ground crew. Boots hit concrete heavy. Final. Her visor was cracked. Her flight suit streaked with oil and blood. The warthog behind her was scarred beyond recognition. Paint scorched. The word Valkyrie barely visible under soot. No one spoke. Mechanics stood frozen, eyes wide, watching the legend walk past them like a ghost who shouldn't have made it back. At the edge of the tarmac, a black SUV waited two men in plain fatigues. No rank, no insignia. One stepped forward. Major Cross, you'll need to come with us. She didn't argue. The drive was silent past the barracks, past the airstrip lights fading behind her. The road turned to gravel, leading to a bunker with no name and no flags. Concrete walls, triple-locked gate, fluorescent light buzzing above steel doors. Inside. The air was cold and still. A man sat at a table. Gray hair, calm voice, eyes like they'd seen too many pilots crash and too few come home. Sit down. Major? Cross did. He opened a thin folder. You violated a no-fly order, disobeyed command, engaged enemy forces without authorization. He paused, flipping to the next page. You also saved 6 soldiers, neutralized 11 hostiles, and prevented the loss of 2 aircraft. She said nothing. Her gloves were still stained with soot and blood. The man studied her, then slid a photo across the table, a grainy infrared image of Valkyrie 3 mid-dive, engines glowing white. Behind her, on a ridge, stood a lone silhouette, still, watching. That's not one of ours, he said quietly. Cross frowned. Then who the hell is it? He closed the folder. That's what we intend to find out. Major Cross, you're being reassigned. From his briefcase, he pulled a black patch, no unit insignia, no emblem, just a single word stitched in gray thread IRONVEIL. Cross stared at it. The air between them felt heavier. She finally nodded. When do we start? The man smiled faintly. We already have. Cut to a desert horizon burning gold under morning light. A hangar door sliding open. Inside a newly rebuilt A-10C, matte gray. No numbers, no national markings. Only one name beneath the canopy, IRONVEIL 3. Riley Cross climbed the ladder, every motion deliberate. The cockpit lights flickered to life. Engines rolled smoother than before, like the machine itself remembered her. She pushed the throttle forward. The runway blurred beneath her, heat waves rising behind. The hog roared into the dawn, vanishing through low clouds. Far below, the world's noise-faded politics, orders, wars without end. Above it all, one aircraft flew on silent, steady, defiant. Because some pilots don't follow orders, they follow promises. And courage isn't the absence of fear, it's flying straight through it. You just witnessed the first call from the silence, the beginning of IRONVEIL. Where are you watching from? Soldier, drop your city in the comments. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because the silence is far from over.